Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the government assures that the 2019 budget is pork barrel free.
We do not know where that came from. We leave it to the House to do as it deems proper with these items.
After the House of Representatives debates over alleged multi-billion insertions.
Walang kaltas, walang bawas, kung titimbangin, walang kulang. Ang mangyayari pa ay papalakasin ang programa.
Senators also questioned the budget cuts on health and education.
So I don't understand how we got 4,110. Is there a logic to 4,110 classrooms?
Sa paghanap natin ng logic kung bakit mababa lang ang pinopropose na budget para sa DepEd, walang logic, illogical, counterintuitive.
As well as the economic team's efforts to counter inflation.
More NFA rice is available in the retail outlets, and that would help temper price pressures moving forward.
Budget Secretary Ben Diokno joins us live. And later, this could be one of the biggest spelling mistakes you'll ever see. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. The House of Representatives moves forward in tackling the 2019 budget after some of its leaders argue over an alleged 50 billion peso worth of insertions. Malacanang insists that the proposed budget is pork barrel free, but senators say they will scrutinize the proposal. Also, provinces are now recovering from the impact of Typhoon Ompong, but how will this affect inflation in the country? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Budget Secretary Ben Diokno. Secretary, good to have you again.
Thanks for having me again.
And I'd like to understand the budget a little bit better, sir. So, 3.757 trillion peso budget coming from the Executive Department, given to Congress for the 2019 budget. However, there is an issue of over 50 billion pesos worth of alleged insertions. Secretary, what do you know about that?
I don't know about the insertions. How can they insert 50 billion in our budget? This is the President's budget, okay? Congress has no role in the preparation of the budget, okay? So every item in that budget, except the lump sums like for the NDREAM, the Calamity Fund, the Miscellaneous Personal Benefits Fund, and the Contingent Fund, they have undergone close scrutiny by my department. So there's no way that there will be insertions.
So there are no insertions according to the Executive Department. Is there over 50 billion pesos of money that was parked in districts that congressmen did not know about, sir?
No, I'll give you the numbers, right? DPWH requested 652 billion, okay? That's the request. So we went through the usual review. You have Tier 1. Tier 1 are continuing projects.
Tier 2 are
will
new
be
projects.
Initiatives.
Yeah.
And we gave them a ceiling of 480 billion, okay? At the end of the review, we still have money, and we have to fill in our commitment to fund infrastructure so much. So we gave them an additional money, and the final number was 556. 556 billion. So that's the difference between 652, the request, and 556. We cut them by 96 billion. So where is that 50 billion coming from? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. That's why you were the perfect guest right now, because also there were news reports that the DPWH got 485.
Right, that's the initial ceiling.
Yes, the 485. According to Secretary Villar, that's what they got. But they eventually got 530.
Correct.
So I'm already getting confused with the numbers, sir.
Yeah, because after reviewing, we have extra money. And
so they asked for 485.
That's
yung binigay niyo po 485.
No, the request was 652, and we gave them initially 480, and then after the final round, we still have extra money, and I gave them additional
extra.
money. Okay,
and
so
what is the final, sir?
the final is 556.
Okay, this is the final.
All right.
Because there was also a number of 530 billion. I mean, in news reports, it said that they eventually got 485. And then, umakyat daw ng 530. So,
But
this could
you know-
possibly be where the 50 billion is
Right,
coming from, sir. Hindi ho ba?
No, but I gave them the additional money because, as I said, we have a commitment to spend as a whole something like 1.1 trillion pesos for infra. And so I gave them, I gave DPWH, I gave DPWH, gave DOTR. You know why I did that also in 2017? I gave Secretary Briones, without her asking, I gave her 120 billion for school building. That's the nature of the process.
Right. So
Congress has nothing to do with this, okay? They have nothing to do with the preparation. Their job, constitutional duty, is to review the budget and then make adjustments, pass the budget, and then it's up for us to implement.
that's what Congressman Nograles was saying, that this is obviously coming from Malacanang. Paano magkakaroon ng insertions?
Well, walang insertions. It is our budget. I prepared it. I presented it to the President in a cabinet meeting. We approve it, and that's it.
Secretary, there are supposedly what they are calling part funds in, well, possibly an agency, the DPWH, or possibly other agencies that are supposedly for 30 congressmen, 30 or so congressmen aligned with former Speaker Alvarez. That's also, I'm sure you've heard that in newspaper reports, on television. Sir, can you at least help us understand this allegation?
You know that their duty is to scrutinize the budget. If they see that there's park funds there, because it's itemized, all these projects. All. Practically all, except as for the lump sums, like for calamities, right? So if they think this is parked by somebody, then they have the prerogative to change it, delete it, replace it, etc.
Yeah, but is it possible that what they're saying, that there is money in their district that they did not ask for?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because, as I said, we went through this very carefully. Okay?
I want to go through the process, sir, first, so we understand it better. From my understanding, congressmen, governors, mayors can ask for projects in their respective districts. Tama ho ba?
Correct. In
Okay.
fact, I make it a point. I said, between a district engineer who is unelected and a congressman who is elected, their request will carry more weight. Right?
So these legislators, these public officials, sir, ask the Regional Development Council.
Yeah, they go through that.
What is the process, Secretary?
We have an RDC, and
That's the Regional Development Council.
congressmen are members of the RDC. Okay, so if they participate there actively, then some of their projects will get reflected in the report of the RDC. And in fact, we source some of our projects from the RDCs also. They can also talk to their district engineers because they go home every week. And of course, the district engineer has to listen to them because, after all, they are the representative of the people. So
it's not just coming from the RDC.
no, we have the district engineer. Sometimes you send a request to Malacanang, or sometimes they request me directly.
Exactly, sir. They can go straight to you as well, hindi ho ba?
But you know, all these things go through the budget review process.
And really, at the end of the day, Secretary Diokno, it's up to the DBM which projects will get a go signal or not.
But based on a very transparent process.
Yeah, but it's really based on the DBM.
Yes.
Galing po yan sa DBM. How do you sift through which projects should take priority and which should not?
We have the economic development plan, so we know exactly what we need. In fact, we have identified the 75 major projects. Unlike before, where the budget is divided by N, the number of congressmen, we actually prioritize 75 major projects.
Yeah, we were talking about that during before we went on air, sir.
Yeah.
What is so bad about dividing money divided by N, or divided by a number of congressmen?
You fritter away resources. You give to areas that are not even priority, that will not maybe pay for itself. So we prioritize projects. We want to make sure that they will give an internal rate of return of at least 10%. Like the South Long Haul. That's about 600 kilometers of railroad, okay, going to Matnog, Sorsogon. this is an aside, but the previous administration has not constructed even 1 kilometer of railway. 1 kilometer. By the time President Duterte is done, he would have provided something like 1,000 kilometers of railway. Okay, that's our plan.
And that, I guess, you will fund, as you mentioned, sir, 75 priority projects.
Correct.
What is prioritized, obviously, by the Duterte administration, by the executive department, will take precedence in the budget. That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Like for example, when I look at the Ambition 2040, the plan of the previous administration, the ambition of every family is to own a car. I said, that's wrong. Our ambition should be not to own a car. We'll just use the mass transit system to move around, okay?
Okay, so when the question on this issue over the 50 billion alleged insertions, sir, came up, what was your initial reaction?
Now,
Did you study the budget again, and did you look at it one by one, and did you
I
say...
look at where is this coming from. I'm confused, and that's why we were in Congress last Monday to defend the budget, talk about the macroeconomic assumptions, and they have this internal squabble. And as you know, that's a co-equal branch of government. It is not proper for us to intervene or interfere.
So plain and simple, it's not an insertion according to the executive department, because this budget, in its totality, came from
us.
From you. Let's look at a statement made by Congressman Tino regarding lump sum, because you mentioned, Secretary, there are lump sum, but these go to possible calamity funds, etc.
Fund, yes.
Let's listen.
These are lump sums with no details. And so, based on previous experiences with the PDAF and the corruption related to approval of such lump sums, I am concerned that at this point no details are being provided as to the where and when, the what, the where, in other words, the details of the projects.
Would you care to respond to that, Secretary?
I'm not sure what he's referring to. Okay,
Which lump sum?
But if he's referring to, for example, the Miscellaneous Personal Benefits Fund, that is based on some positions that we intend to create for next year. But we are not giving it to the department themselves yet, pending maybe... because
how much is that, sir?
I don't recall, but you know that we have 262 vacant positions in government, and that's where the money will come from, 262. So we don't give you the budget, the department, the budget, until you hire people. Because otherwise they might, say, I will use it as savings or something like that.
So you're parking, pardon the word, saving this amount for these vacancies that you don't want to distribute yet to the various agencies.
We're setting aside, like, there are some 2,000 unfilled positions for medical health workers, X number of positions for teachers, etc. So we are setting aside. The one he's referring to may be the one that was done during the waning days of the previous administration, where the Miscellaneous Personal Benefits Fund was used as a source for the Dengvaxia vaccine.
All right.
And also the HFEP, the Health Facilities Program.
Yeah.
That is an improper use of that lump sum.
Which we are going to discuss later, because Senator Franklin Drilon has something to say about that. This is the source on CNN Philippines. Still to come, a nationwide state of calamity and an update on the country or countermeasures to fight the impact of inflation. Budget Secretary Ben Diokno will still be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Budget Secretary Ben Diokno. Secretary, there are still insinuations that these projects, these pet projects by congressmen is pork or are pork.
You know, the
Can you
definition,
explain that to us?
the concept of
please?
pork, if you go by the Supreme Court decision, is when congressmen or legislators in general, they participate in the identification and implementation of the projects.
You said participation.
Yeah.
Nakikisali sila sa
Nakikisali
bidding, sa...
And the implementation, yun ang pinagbabawal ng that Supreme Court
Pero hindi
decision.
pinagbabawal ng Korte Suprema na magkaroon ng proyekto ang mga
No, I
congressman.
encourage them. They said, do your homework as representative of the district. Think of what you want to do in your district, and you approach each individual secretaries. So some of the budgets submitted to me by the secretaries went through maybe consultation also with some congressmen.
If that is the case, how can you say it's pork-free? So if a Congressman A, gets projects from various agencies, and then eventually, upon implementation of the project, he participated in it, then that becomes pork. So how can you say...
but pork, in what sense? If they go through a rigorous process. If it's not worthwhile and it's not in accordance with our menu, in other words, it's not our priority, it won't get reflected in the budget. Okay? Basketball courts. You
Wala
won't
na
see
yan,
any
sabi mo
basketball
kanina.
courts in either or parking bus stops. You won't see that in
Road signs.
Oh, well, we have also discontinued that.
So are you saying that the budget is 100% pork barrel free?
Exactly. It has gone through the process. So, for example, if a congressman wants a school building constructed in this part of his district, he would, one option is he will go to Liling Briones and make a
Education
request.
Department and
Is there
make a
something
request.
wrong with that? Nothing, right? That's his role.
Yeah, but what becomes wrong with it is if kumita si congressman doon sa project na
Tama
yun,
yan.
yung sinasabi
But
niyong participation,
we have a very transparent bidding process. Okay.
that we are going to rely on.
Right.
Okay, so just going back to that before we leave this topic, sir, is it possible that some of the money or a bulk of the money went to congressmen allied to the former speaker?
Possible, some, right. But as I said, it has to go through the same
Yeah,
process
the
again.
priority of the
process.
executive department.
Right,
Now,
and it's now reflected in the president's budget.
yeah, but now if this is realigned and it goes to projects now aligned with the present speaker, Speaker
Yes,
Gloria
yes.
Macapagal-Arroyo, does that make it wrong?
But yeah, they can do that. That's their prerogative.
Yeah.
But you know, there are two houses of Congress. Okay, that House version will go to the Senate, and the Senate might have other ideas, and the disagreeing provisions will then be reconciled through a third chamber called the Conference Committee.
Yeah, the BICAM.
And then finally, the president has line item veto power. You know, this president, our president, is more powerful than the president of the U.S. The president of the U.S. does not have
Veto
line item
powers.
veto power.
Yeah.
So we go through this line by line after this is approved.
So you talked about senators. There are senators quite unhappy with some of the budget of certain departments, such as we're looking at health and education. Let's start with education. Some statements made by Senator Bam Aquino and Senator Risa Ontiveros.
So I don't understand how we got 4,110. Is there a logic to 4,110 classrooms?
Sa paghanap natin ng logic kung bakit mababa lang ang pinopropose na budget para sa DepEd, walang logic, illogical, counterintuitive.
Secretary Diokno, please respond to that.
Well, you know, in 2017, again, the same process, I gave Secretary Briones more than, I think, around 120 billion for classrooms. That was not done. It took her about 3 quarters before she transferred the money to DPWH. So the school buildings that are being built right now are still 2017 money.
From the last quarter of last year.
Last year. And then you still have the 2018 money to be disbursed. So I gave her a big amount also for 2019. So you see all this money floating around and not being implemented. So that's the reason why I reduced it from 100+ billion to around, I think,
Because
around
there
40.
was still a balance from the
Correct.
previous
There's
year.
so
is
much
how you're-
backlog.
But why
No,
are
but-
they...
but
why-
Right,
Go ahead,
go
Secretary,
go ahead.
please.
And I told Secretary Briones, why don't you think of what kind of school buildings, how many for the next several years? plan ahead, 20, and they're doing
Para
that
you,
right
they
now.
can put, you can put it in the 2020,
Right.
2021,
And they're doing right now.
budget. But what's this 4,110 classrooms? Sinasabi po ni Senator Bam, is there a logic to 4,110 classrooms?
They made a request much higher than that, and we have to reduce it precisely because of the backlogs. Okay, so but I said, look, you have to come up with a multi-year and plan for your school building.
All right, let's shift topics.
And that's not difficult to do. We know the population 6 years ago, so you can plan ahead.
Oh, okay, let me just also add, Senator Franklin Drilon, very unhappy with a part of the budget of the health department. He's talking about the health facilities enhancement program. From 30 billion, it was reduced to 50 million. Is this correct,
Yes,
sir?
again, the same argument, backlogs. You know, the total appropriation for that program is 138 billion since 2008, and they had spent less than 10%. Why should I give them more money? I told Secretary Duque, and it's not Secretary Duque's fault, it's the fault of his predecessors. And I said, look, this is time for you to review. And in fact, the Commission on Audit said that some 7 billion out of this 138 billion are questionable.
Yeah, but Secretary, the Senator is saying that he wants the DBM to submit an errata to amend this budget. Are you going to do
Not possible.
that? Not at all? You
We're
won't even
not going to
consider?
issue any errata. Okay, we stand by our submission.
All right, Typhoon Ompong, sir, rehabilitation, is there a budget for the rehabilitation?
Yes.
How much and how much has been released?
Yeah, we don't have a specific amount, but the line departments who are immediate responders to any calamity have what is called Quick Response Fund. So the SWD has money for that, DepEd, Department of Agriculture, DPWH. So we don't have to release money. At least.
Meron na yan, nakahanda na po
Meron.
yun.
In fact, they were, I think, a few days before, I gave them, if I have the numbers here, something like infrastructure. I don't, on the...
That's okay, sir. Let's get back to that a little later on.
No, here. DBM, we released something like 662 million to DSWD a few days before that.
Nauna na yun, 662
That's
million.
called it's an augmentation of the Quick Response Fund.
All right, so it was released, 662 million.
And they have,
prior
according to
the
them,
typhoon.
they have used 134.7 million of that for this typhoon.
Sir, why then are you guys asking the president to declare a nationwide state of calamity? Can you
Yeah,
explain
because
this to us, sir?
we have a loan with the World Bank standby loan. It's $500 million. According to Sunny Dominguez, it's available, and it's not necessarily expensive. So the one that will trigger it is a declaration of national calamity, which we did during the Yolanda. Okay.
But if you were saying, I'm a little confused, sir, that may pera naman po, why go to a national,
Yeah, because
nationwide
we
state of
can
calamity?
access the loan from the World Bank.
But I thought you said there was money, sir.
Yeah, there's money, but we're September, right? We still have October, November, December, and that can be used for future calamities.
Okay, inflation. How would you describe the 6.4 inflation in August, sir? Secretary Dominguez calls it. He says it's not a major crisis. It's not a major crisis, but it's a serious problem. How would you describe the 6.4
because
inflation?
many people describe it as runaway inflation. That is a wrong characterization of runaway. When you say runaway, that means nobody's in control. It's like a runaway car where there's no driver and the car is moving, right? That is irresponsible because that will create panic. What we have is an elevated, elevated inflation, much higher than our plan. But this is we've seen much more serious inflation in the past. Okay.
Yeah.
Under Mrs. Aquino, 21.2, the peak in August 1991, Mr. Ramos, 13.9, peaked in Feb 1994, again, Estrada, 10.7.
Okay, but you know, that fine and good, sir. But if we look at President Aquino, the average was here 2.8.
2.8.
And then what you're saying is under the Duterte administration, the average is only
So far
3.2, even if we are at a 6.4 inflation in August.
Our plan, if you read the macroeconomic assumptions, is 2 to 4. That's right within the 2 to 4. That low inflation under Mr. Aquino was because of the global recession. Remember, there was the collapse of the world
So what can
financial
we
system.
expect in the future, sir? If you're are you happy with this, a 3.2 average inflation?
Of course, we're within the target. The 6.4, we're a little bit worried, but we have already drafted executive order to solve the problem. One of the immediate measures we adopted is for NFA to release 4.6
million sacks of rice.
We
Yes,
have
sir.
that in their warehouses.
Yeah.
Why didn't we release them?
Anyway, that's still going to be. That was already
That has been
ordered.
released.
Yeah, sir. So September, are we expecting an increase again in inflation?
Hopefully,
The truth
it will
there?
peak sometime in the third quarter. That's our expectation. And then
What is the peak, sir?
6.4 is the peak as of now. Okay?
No, in the third quarter, sir.
I have no idea. That's BS.
Are we going to get to 7, you think?
No, I don't think so. No.
All right. All right, thanks a lot. Wish we had more time. Secretary, thanks
You're
a lot
welcome,
for your
you're welcome.
time. Secretary Ben Diokno. This is the source on CNN Philippines coming up. Here it is, sir. I didn't want to tell him, but it's an airplane. Spelling mistake lights up the internet. That's for today's In Focus.